And, when you talk about the BMF, that's something that I really, really did enjoy when they brought it out. I had no idea I wanted to see a title for the BMF be contested. And then when you think Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, it's like, okay, well, they're never going to fight for a UFC belt, but there deserves to be some sort of belt on the line.
Right.
And, I could do without The Rock being the one giving it to him. I think there's other BMFs out there that could probably, hand over that belt better than him. But once we saw that happen and they're like, all right, we're not doing it anymore, I was a little bit bummed. I was like, no, I like this. And I think it should only be one belt. And the fact that it started at 170 is perfect. That means it can go either direction in weight classes because there are smaller guys that can beat bigger guys. And then, of course, there's bigger guys that can beat the smaller ones. So you never know. That BMF belt could venture all the way down to flyweight one day. And, of course, it could go all the way up to heavyweight. Now, if it gets to heavyweight, I don't really see it coming back down the list of divisions. But it started at 170. Now we've got it at 155. And I think this is the perfect matchup to bring the BMF belt back for. And I know we've seen this fight happen before, but you never know what you're going to get with Justin Gaethje, and you never know what you're going to get with Dustin Poirier. But one thing I know for sure is Justin Gaethje is the fighter that we all wanted to see Justin Gaethje be. He was just content with being the most entertaining, the highlight reel, the most fun fighter, and your fighter's favorite fighter for the longest time. And we grew accustomed to that. But I think he does now realize that he wants to be a UFC champion. He doesn't just want to be the most entertaining fighter in the world. And to do that, you have to be a little bit more tactical, a little bit more calculated. And he's showing us that he has the skills to be the best fighter in the world. And he's not willing to just throw caution to the wind every time on his way to the belt. He's willing to do what his coach wants him to do, stick to a game plan, and get his hand raised.
Yeah, after that win against Fiziev, I was fully on board with the new and improved Justin Gaethje, and I don't think it'll be an easy of a victory this time around for Dustin as it was the first. I honestly think it's a 50-50 fight, and I love the BMF belt. I'm super excited that they're bringing it back. The only thing I would have done a little bit differently was have Jorge defend it a time or two. There's certain fights that Jorge had after the Nate Diaz fight that they could have made that maybe would have made sense to bring the belt back out, but they never did. So they kind of shelved it, and now they're bringing it back out that he's retired. I would like to see if they're going to try to improve and keep this BMF belt around. Don't just let it be contested between these two gentlemen and then put it away until both of them retire and bring it back out again. Whether Justin Gaethje gets it or whether Dustin Poirier gets it, their next fight could definitely make sense to put it back on the line again. So let's keep doing that. If we're going to run the BMF experiment, let's run it all the way to the end. And I think that we should do it, every time Justin Gaethje, if he wins, whoever he fights, we should keep that belt in mind and try to make his opponent a worthy opponent to contest for it. Same thing with Dustin Poirier. So just my 2 cents. I love that they're bringing it back, but I hope they keep it going in rotation and make it be defended by whoever holds it.
Yeah, and I think there's one fighter in particular that wants that belt and the UFC wants to see get that belt. And with the two fighters that are fighting for it next,
you don't even have to say,
yeah, there's just a perfect opportunity because the world is a better place when Conor McGregor's fighting for a title. And there's really no way the UFC can have Conor McGregor fight these days and it not be for a title because he is the biggest star by far in all of combat sports. And he has to close out the show. But the UFC has a business model, and that is that the last couple fights of a pay-per-view are going to be for a title. It's going to be 5 rounds, and there has to be some weight on it. But Conor McGregor hasn't fought that recently, and he also, hasn't won much that recently. So I think it's more important for them to have a belt, whether it's the undisputed UFC belt or one that they just made up and people are really starting to cling to. Conor McGregor needs to be fighting for a belt, and that way they can justify putting him as the very last fighter to walk out on the top of the bill. And it won't feel like they're gypping some of their champions. If they put him on the same card as Izzy Adesanya, as much as I love Izzy Adesanya and he is a main eventer, he's not going to walk out after Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has to walk out last or second to last if the person happens to be ranked higher or already has the belt. But I do think that Conor McGregor is one fight away, and he might not even have to fight Chandler. There could be some issues, and his extension with the USADA pool thing could push Michael Chandler into a different fight. If I was Michael Chandler, I'd hold out, but crazier things have happened for sure. And he might see what happens between Dustin and Justin and want to get that revenge fourth fight with Dustin or get that dream matchup that all UFC fans have wanted to see for a long time, which is Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor. And if there's a belt on the line, like the BMF belt, Conor McGregor's in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they would love to do in an ideal world is get some sort of belt around his waist. But the issue is he competes at 155, and looking at his body more recently, probably 170. Well, Islam Makhachev sitting at the top of 155, and Rocky Edwards is sitting at the top of 170 with a literal pool of sharks swimming around him. So who knows how long Rocky will be able to even hold on to that belt. So it's a tough uphill battle for Conor McGregor to get an undisputed belt in a weight class. And so the next best thing would be the BMF belt. And like you said, Justin Gaethje makes perfect sense to fight Conor because that's a striker's dream matchup. It's very exciting, could go either way. Him and Dustin Poirier have a long history. This would be the fourth installment, but the last one kind of ended in a way that none of us would have hoped. So there's room to have that extra fight with Dustin in there. So I think it's awesome.